that is what I knew I wanted to do. And so I thought sports was like, I'm so fascinated by sports culture. I'm so entrenched in the idea of how we can impact the greatest amount of people with such a simple message is through sport. And that's why I wanted to get into the industry.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here.
Sometimes you meet people and you just love their energy. For me, I wanted to steal the energy of my next guest. Sabrina Alsaffar is a senior coordinator of special projects for U.S. Soccer. She is one of a kind. You will see what I mean in just a minute. She has gone through a lot in her journey, and she does not hold back in sharing it with us. In this episode, you will definitely laugh a lot. You will be outraged at some of the things she's gone through. You will feel sheer joy for how she boldly went after what she wanted. You will definitely want to connect with her and make sure she's a part of your network. Well, all I have to say is watch out, industry. Sabrina Alsaffar is here, and she is going to help change how women and minorities are treated. It's on. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, let's do this. Sabrina, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. I am so excited you're here.
I am incredibly excited to be here. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. Okay, girl, take us back in time and tell everybody when you first fell in love with sports.
For sure. I think it's cheesy and potentially a little predictable, but I have 3 older brothers. And so in order to kind of fit in, I had to be a bandwagoner. They were all so much older than me, and they all had this little like click thing. They would watch sports together. They'd hang out. They'd buy like jerseys. And I just wanted to be involved and not be the annoying little sister. And so by virtue of that, I just had to like fake it till I maked it. And then it actually became something that I loved, just to like plug the Canadian aspect. My dad loved to take us to hockey games. Like I'm a huge Ottawa Senators fan, even though I know we're not a great team. If anyone out there pays attention to hockey, I get it. It's embarrassing.
Wait, did you grow up in Canada?
Yeah. Born and raised.
Okay.
Born and raised 24 years. And I moved to America 3 years ago now. So Ottawa Senators for life. Even though, like, you know, when you have those teams, like they're dreadful, but like you're in it. So sorry to anyone from Ottawa, but if you are actually from Ottawa, you would know it'll get better, I hope. But we went to a bunch of games, and I think my dad bought me this like little jersey, and I was like, this is my favorite thing of all time. I wore it all the time. Truthfully, the crop top movement made it so I can still wear it as an adult. But that's how I got into it. It was a great family activity. And I think for my parents, it was huge. Like they're both immigrants. And so sports was a really great way to form community in communities that they weren't initially a part of. My dad's from Iraq and my mom's from Ireland. And they moved here together, or they moved to Canada together, not really knowing many people. And hockey was a huge way to build community. So I was really raised in the idea that like sports is how you kind of made friends without having to have the context or anything, knowing too much about them. It's just like, okay, we're bonding over the fact that we hate that team and we love our team. And I was like, that's great. I love blind loyalty. 10 out of 10.
You grew up in Canada.
Yeah.
With your dad being from Iraq.
Yep.
And your mom being from Ireland.
Yeah. First generation Canadian, now immigrant to America.
Wow. What a story. I mean, I feel like we should do a whole other podcast about what that looked like trying to grow up in that sort of environment, like in Canada, but like I'm making the assumption minority parents, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what that was like, but we'll talk about that at some time over drinks. Okay. So let's talk about when you decided, like, what did you do when you went to college, or as you all call grade 13
University.
or university, whatever you guys call it?
Yeah. So when I initially was studying, I wasn't necessarily sure what I wanted to do. I did really like marketing and communications. I love talking. And so I was like, I should just do a degree in it. So it'll be fine. So I did a double major in political science and communications. And it didn't lead me into sports at all. That actually transitioned me into going into government. So I initially started doing event planning for government. And then I moved into the foreign service where I started doing crisis communications, anti-terrorism messaging, and major event planning.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. That's not a traditional job, right? Like some people, I was PR, I was marketing, I was events, but like, I'm sorry, crisis communication, and then say it again.
Anti-terrorism messaging. It's important. We need to do. But yeah, so it wasn't
a heavy job.
Yeah, it wasn't always the lightest. I mean, I definitely had fun. I loved all the people that I worked with, and we found ways to definitely make it, as fun as it could be in times that were less stressful. But yeah, I did a few things on anti-Daesh, or also known as anti-ISIS messaging. That was kind of a key focus, and kind of had to deal with some classified situations, but also like worked on more, let's say, lighthearted and fun activities like Canada's 150th birthday, or the UN Security Council, the G7, the UN General Assembly. So it was definitely an array, working with like Canada has over 200 embassies and consulates in the world. So like dealing with multiple diplomats and ambassadors it was fun. You learn a lot of different things. And I actually think that it probably is like a huge reason why I think I can handle a lot of the stress in sports now, is because of that background.
Okay, that's a crazy job. I don't know how else to say it, but I'm just going to use some basic language and say it's a crazy job. Like that just sounds so intense. And now, why don't you tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for?
Yeah, so currently I am a senior coordinator of special projects for US soccer. And I know that sounds quite vague. I think people are like, what's a special project? And I'm like, no, truthfully, like my Arab dad was also like, sounds like a fake job. And I'm like, no, it's super real. He's like, special projects, like, is that like the gold star in effort? And I'm like, no. So basically, we focus on these like major campaigns like She Believes, which is where you and I met, which was wonderful. Yes. Currently really focused on the fact that the US qualified for the World Cup. So World Cup planning, and also even forward planning for the Women's World Cup coming up as well. So kind of focusing on those major projects, and let's say special projects in this context is really the scope of my job in event marketing.
What made you make that jump, or want to make that jump? Did you go straight from government to soccer?
Yeah, well, I had a pivot. So I did a master's in between in marketing and comms at Georgetown. And I guess it's up to, do you want like the real answer, or I guess like the professional answer that I told my parents when I said I was moving to the States? So.
I want both. I want you to give, and we're going to leave this and we're not editing this part out. I want you to give us the real answer. And then what I want you to do is give everybody the PC answer so they can then tell their parents the same thing.
What they had to do. Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has a parent who's super strict and wants to make sure you always know what you're doing, I will provide that advice to you. But for me, I think one of the main things was I wasn't happy anymore. If we're being honest, I feel like we've all been there at some point in our career. I was at like a 4-year mark. Things were kind of moving in a direction that I felt like I didn't want to grow alongside. I did a lot of amazing major projects in terms of what I wanted to complete. I completed. It was stressful and I was tired, and I figured I wanted a new challenge. I think you reach a point in your career where your brain kind of goes on autopilot. And so I was like, how do I get out of this? Because truthfully, growing up in Ottawa, a huge government town, it's like, it's the capital. So there's only really government opportunities. And I wanted to work in entertainment. I wanted to work in sports. I wasn't sure how or why, but I knew that going to the States was the easiest way to do it for what I wanted, and it wasn't too far from home. So I was like, let's just get a master's degree. It gets you a visa. if we're being honest. It'll get you a work visa if you get accreditation from an American university, and then we hopefully go from there, and I can get new connections and new things, because my mindset was so government. Like, it was like everything I had done from literally 16 to 24. I had like stints in doing consulting for like fitness things. And I worked for a tech company, but it was really just government for those years. And I was like, how do you diversify a resume that is so one-minded, let's say? So I was tired, and I was like, I'm just going to do this thing and hopefully it works out. Couldn't tell my dad that, because he,
So that was the real answer.
Yeah, that's the real answer. I was tired.
Why couldn't you tell your dad that?
I think for him, he wanted me to be this diplomat. He wanted me to be an ambassador. He saw like the working with the UN, working with, Geneva, and seeing all these things. And I think from his perspective, he's like, that's the dream, isn't it? Like, major political stage, you're working with these like prime ministers and these presidents. He sees like the glamour of government, which is actually quite funny. I don't think a lot of people see the glamour of government, but he really saw the glamour of government. He was like, Sabrina, like, you met Justin Trudeau, Sabrina, like it was so embellished. And I was like, yeah. I think, once you do that for a bit, the shine of it goes away if it's not something you're into. If people like government who are listening, stick with it, great benefits, amazing pay and hours and stuff. Sure. But we have to plug that. I can't be a hater. But I think for me, my dad would never see it. He was like, yeah, of course. Even his thing was, if we're being honest, for anyone who has immigrant parents out there, it's definitely like law or medicine or bust. And all my brothers, like 2 of my brothers are doctors, one's a radiation therapist, everyone's in medicine. And so I was already doing something that he wasn't super happy with, going into comms. He's like, comms isn't law. And I was like, yeah. No, and I get that. It's not. But
yeah. No, you're totally right.
No, and so crazy that you, astute observation, father. You're right. It's not. And I think he was just really worried, because he's like coming into like a new country. He's like, these are blueprints to success. I think a lot of people, I think our parents' generations are very much like, the blueprint to success is like engineering, law, medicine, and they don't see the diversification that can exist like it does now. And so he's just worried. And so I had to tell him I had a plan, but I had no plan. And I couldn't tell him that I hated it, because he wasn't really listening. So for anyone who wants the PC answer, what I told my dad was, I really like to expand my resume and provide myself with new opportunities for growth. I think that in government, there's only a certain amount of training that they're providing me with. And I found this amazing program at Georgetown, which is an incredibly accredited university, that will definitely get me more recognition on the international stage from a diplomatic perspective. And then he was like, oh my God, amazing. Didn't tell him I wanted to move into entertainment.
You clearly are in the like communications. Okay, now I can see it, right? Like, that was well said. But I also I think that's the PC answer, but it's still the right answer, right? Like, you just didn't tie the emotional aspect to it, which was your happiness and feeling like you were on autopilot. Is that right?
Yeah, no, exactly. You kind of have to just filter. I think the filter is on to make things like, I would say like in Arabic, Baba is father. So I say like Baba appropriate. You have to make like things like cater for him. So it was really funny, because once I actually got to Georgetown and I started to get more in tune with what I wanted, he actually did come around, and he's probably one of my biggest fans now that he has heard about the World Cup and that I'm going to be assisting on it. He's like, oh my God, can I have tickets? This is the greatest news ever. He's like telling all his friends. He's like definitely making me sound like I'm like C-suite level. He's like, oh my God, my daughter is the World Cup. It's her. She did it. And I'm like, Dad, no, absolutely not. He's like, my daughter, World Cup, telling all of his friends. Yeah. And it's in Qatar, which obviously the Arab link to that. He's like, oh my God, you're going to go to the Middle East, be in touch with your people. And I was like, so you really took like you took like nothing and just, I learned comms through my father. Let's talk about that for a second. Like, it wasn't me. I didn't need a degree. The embellishment tactics I learned from that man.
But he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Just like his, observation that, comms is not law. He's not wrong in the sense, like, you're going to guitar, like that's a big deal. And he wouldn't be a father if he wasn't bragging on you. Like, what you're saying just sounds exactly like my father. Anywhere we go, my daughter has 2 World Series rings, right? My daughter worked for the Red Sox, Dodgers, Cubs. Like, anytime any of his children is always bragging on them.
The thing is, though, now it's good because it's valid. There was a time when I was younger when I think I toured the Google campus. He told everyone, he's like, my daughter had an interview at Google. And I was like, so that never happened. I was like, Dad, like I took photos of the campus. I was in Mountain View and I was like, look at all this cool stuff. He's like, oh, amazing. I come back. So many of his patients were coming up to me like, Sabrina, how was your interview at Google? We really hope you get it. And I was like, do I commit to the lie? Do I like...
Yeah. I mean, it was good for them to see you. So like in some ways it was like an interview, right?
we need you to meet my dad because apparently you are his big, like you're his PR team at this point. Anything he says, you're like, we could spin it. This is right.
No, totally. I mean, I feel like, and maybe because I went through that. I mean, I still do, right? So I feel like perhaps, we should have our fathers meet and see how long they can one up each other.
I love that. And it has to be super subtle. It's going to be like, oh, that's really great about your daughter. So my daughter is doing this. And then you're like, well, actually my daughter has her own podcast. And he's like, and that's super interesting. Did I tell you my daughter interviewed at Google?
Yes. Yep. Oh yeah. But then we got to bring our siblings into it too. So like the competition may be like fierce. Like we can sit on the sideline and just like score the game. Like it'll be fun.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 3.
Oh, so it's even playing field. We're a 4-sibling family.
And I have 4 nephews and a niece. So
see, your dad will have the grandkid game. My dad only has 1.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Right now, but he does love to say, my sons went to the same medical school that me and their mother met at. They're doctors. And it's like, it's great. It's the next step immediately. Like, my sons, doctors. What do your sons do? And he loves it.
Will your father be listening to this episode?
So the more I talk about him, the more I'm like, maybe he shouldn't. But Baba, if you are listening, أحبك كل جحبك, it means I love you a lot. But I do love my dad. And he's
you could have just said anything, and I'd been like, I don't know what that.
Could
means.
You imagine?
Like, yeah.
Message in the podcast. No, you might have Arabic speaking listeners. I'm not trying to, get you guys flagged for anything, but he's probably one of my biggest cheerleaders now. And it's a really funny turn. I think a lot of my friends who knew me from like high school and stuff are like, I didn't see this coming. And I was like, me neither. I'm not going to say anything. I love it, but he's so funny. He's like, he has the biggest smile on his face whenever I talk about my job. And I hear people tell me like, oh yeah, your dad's so proud of you. And I'm like, just want him to tell me that. And he's like, I can't make your head too big. Got to just tell the others.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Our parents, our fathers are very similar. Okay. So tell me now. So now you went to Georgetown, you got your master's.
Yeah.
The PC answer, I think, was just as valid as your real answer. I think those were one and the same. So then you're done. What was next? Like, how long were you worried about your visa, or like, help us because I don't understand that.
Okay, yeah. So this is a bit of a whirlwind for me in terms of my kind of trajectory on getting a visa and everything. So on my end, I was super prep. You go for 2 years. Once you work in something that isn't STEM related, the American government gives you a 1-year OPT, which is it's a working visa that is provided through the university. For any listeners out there who are also international students, I respect the fact that we are all experts in law. So in a way, I am a lawyer now because I'm an immigration lawyer at this point. I know all the ins and outs. You have about 60 days upon graduation to get a job, or you have to go back to your country. And so there was... Jeez. Yeah. So you have to secure someone take you in.
Can you come back? Like 60 days, you don't get it, but then you go like back to
you can Canada. Come as a visitor, but it's not like you can come back and try again for your job. You would have to go through like a different process. You lose your timeline to apply your 1-year work visa.
60 days?
Yeah. So 90-day fiance has literally nothing on me, like at all. That shows a joke in comparison.
60 days. Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. I feel like some people are probably listening like, yeah, this is nothing new. And like, I haven't been in college in a while. So, all my Canadian friends that I had when I was in college, like I forgot about all this. And so, I mean, the majority of them went home, but like that forces your hand sometimes, right? Or forces like you're interviewing with these companies and it's almost like you have to be grateful for what you get. And you don't want to push too hard. Like, tell us more about that experience.
Yeah, it's super stressful. You have like all your friends or anyone you're with kind of saying like making jokes and like, I can just marry you. It's fine. Like, and I'm like, the amount of fake wedding
Yeah.
wedding offers I got to keep me in the country was very, it was lovely. I really appreciate it, but obviously it's not super viable. But it's basically like you start your hunt really early. And so for me, I was volunteering with an organization, and it was a wonderful organization, but they thought that they had the money to fund me, because essentially, like, you need to have a livable wage. I need to live, right? And you need to have healthcare and stuff. So I thought that they could. And then I want to say, so I was graduating in December. I'd been volunteering with them from July to November. And mid-November, I essentially get a call, and they're like, no, we can't do it. And I was stressed. So on top of this, I know you know this because we talked about it. I had a big accident in September. So I was like hospitalized. I fractured my jaw, my nose, had a bunch of stitches in my face. And I was pretty incapacitated for a bit in terms of like being able to do things. And then also like having to interview with your face all scarred up at the time is like, it's not cute. The unfortunate truth is when you're doing these Zoom interviews, visually you do set a first impression. And I, look like Sloth from the Goonies for a second. And so.
And the clock is ticking. So you're in the hospital and the 60-day clock is ticking.
Yeah. So I'm stressed out trying to find something. I did have an offer for something in DC, and I don't think they'll listen because it's not in the same sector. So I don't mind talking about it, but it was for a transport engineering company. They wanted me to do marketing for them. And quite frankly, nothing sounded more boring to me. And so I couldn't do it. I was like, wonderful what they do, helping create traffic flow that makes more sense, not something that spoke to me and my passions. So I was scrambling to find something that resonated with me because the thing that did just fell through. And thankfully at the time,
let me ask you this before you tell us more. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like
no, not at all.
Really well. What was it that filled your passion or fueled your fire? Like, I know that it wasn't the transport. I can't remember the name of it because it just sounded so boring. But I
didn't say it out of safety for them.
Well, yeah, no. But I know, like, I couldn't even remember like the industry because I was just like, I don't even know. Like that just put me to sleep. But and I totally understand that. So, but what was it that you were setting out to get? What were you looking for
at the time? And so people and connection is huge for me. I love interacting with people. And I guess that sounds super basic, but back home, with my mom, she's an absolute rock star. I talked about my dad a lot, but my mom is like, I feel like everyone talks about how much they love their parents, but my mom literally has group chats with my friends acting as their mom. Like my friends call my mom. So she's this wonderful woman, and she works tirelessly helping refugees, helping victims of sexual assault and domestic violence outside of her nursing job. And so she really taught me the importance of like connection and what you can really do to someone who doesn't have a voice to tell you their entire situation. Just being someone that is an ear and wants to inspire, it makes a world of a difference. And so that's what I wanted to do. I think that's where I kind of pivoted into politics for a bit. And when I was volunteering, I volunteered. The volunteering job was for a domestic violence and sexual assault center. So I really just wanted to build connection and make an impact on people. That was my passion. And so no offense to transport, but that's
sure.
I'm not dealing with people. And so I knew no matter what I found, even though I had like things that I really wanted to go into, like sports, I really wanted to work with people. And I think one of the reasons I would say like a pivot why sports and people are so connected to me is I think you can make huge impacts in a political way through government, but you can also make incredible change through something that everyone is watching. I would say it may be controversial or I don't know, but in my opinion, I think people that are very heavy political figures, the likelihood that they watch sports is high. But the likelihood that people who are super big sports fans are paying the same attention to politics, that transfer isn't always there. So if you want to make a stand, if you want to force things like the conversations about DEI, right? We want to talk about diversity. We want to talk about, feminism, inclusion, the voices that need to be heard. I think entertainment is such a fantastic way to build those connections. Not saying politics isn't, but it's a completely different crowd. And so that is what I knew I wanted to do. And so I thought sports was like, I'm so fascinated by sports culture. I'm so entrenched in the idea of how we can impact the greatest amount of people with such a simple message is through sport. And that's why I wanted to get into the industry.
So I love all that. And I have some more follow-up questions on that. We need to unpack that more. But before we get to that, okay, so now the clock is ticking. You are in the hospital.
You look like stressed out.
Yeah, you look like, who'd you say, Shrek?
I look like, well, you know what? And throw other characters that I may have looked like. I look, she said, you look like Shrek. Did you look like, just names, like just reads me
Wait,
to
but what
film.
did you say?
I said Sloth from the Goonies.
Oh, yes.
This girl
Shrek is
said-
much better.
He's like, it's fine. Also Shrek. Also Sloth from the Goonies. Also, like, my lips were huge. Like, now I know what I would look like if I got an addiction to lip fillers. Like, it was insane. So I think for me, clock is ticking. I'm a little stressed out. Meanwhile, background, because obviously I'm still doing my master's, I'm completing my finals. I'm finishing up my master's, like, capstone/thesis. And I'm actually working with US Soccer on my capstone project. So I'm working on the She Believes campaign, and doing, targeting new markets with them, and kind of creating a marketing campaign on how to attract people outside of the sporting realm into listening and paying attention to She Believes, speaking to that whole, like, concept that I was saying that I love about connection and wanting to make positive change in those ways and give people platforms to say their truth. And so this is happening. I'm working with one of the most amazing women, Kay Bradley, who is here at US Soccer, obviously. And she's watching me, by the way, she didn't watch me get into my accident, but I think I Zoom called her 2 days after my accident, busted up being like, let's do this call. And she's like, you need to hang up right now. You can't be working in your state. And I was like, no, let's do this. And she's like, no, rest. It's fine. Work will be there. And I think that was huge for me to have that support, knowing that she's awesome. She still believed in the fact that, like, I would get it done. Everything was fine. She was like, your health is way more important than a campaign. And I will also say, at Georgetown, my professor and my advisor, Wendy Zajac, was also fantastic and very supportive, and was like, anything Georgetown can offer you, any help you need. I got emails from admin staff being like, here are some resources if you're feeling down about your accident. So I was super supported. So that did help with the stress of the clock ticking. So in the interim, I lost an opportunity that I had. I had this default of a transport job that I really didn't like. And I was like, I wasn't even thinking of it as a default. And I was working on this project, but I was also healing and recovering. So in my off time, I think I was really thinking about it. And it was one of my friends who was like, why don't you just ask them? And I was like, what? And he was like, you're working with them. You've been working with them for free because it's a capstone project for like 4 or 5 months now. They obviously see that you're doing well. I would say raise your interest to Kay that you'd actually like to work with US Soccer. And I was like, oh my God. When the answer is like right in front of you, but you're not looking at it?
Yes. Oh, so the interview that you had with Kay was about your capstone.
Yeah.
Not an interview for the job.
No.
And so your friend gave you fantastic advice.
Always leverage connections that you have, and don't be afraid to speak up for the things that you want, because I was out here be like, oh, it's just a master's project. And he's like, oh my God, you're so dumb. Just ask her if there's anything. And she might know other people, like, you have no idea. Plus she has proof of your work.
Wow. So were you nervous? There we go.
Oh, yeah,
were you nervous?
Like, get out of the rent that you paid in my head. Thank you. Yes. Super nervous. I was like, oh my God. Because rejection is terrifying, but then rejection with the timeline is so scary. And although I would say I had the safety net of that other job, I knew I was going to be really, like, sad. And so I was like, one of the scariest things for me at this point was, I've never been nervous about not getting something, because I've never been this invested in wanting a job before I was like getting things, and it was like great opportunities. And then when I had it, I learned to love it. It was like a slow burn, but this was something I knew off rip that I really wanted. And so I was so scared. I was like, if I don't get this, like, what do I do? And my friends were like throwing me into things to distract me from it. They're like, let's go to the movies tonight. And I was like, I just need to think about if I'm going to get this job. And they're like, absolutely not. Don't focus on that. You can't do anything. You just have to wait. And so I talked to Kay about it. In future, for anyone listening who wants to bring these things up, don't be as nervous as I was. I was super timid about it, which is kind of funny because my friends would probably say that I'm very outgoing. They can't see me as being timid, but I was like, hi, hey, girly pop, what's going on? This is my project. Also, super wondering if there was maybe an opening. I really like it, and I like what I've been doing, and maybe if there's not too much trouble, like really dancing around it. And I think Kay like knew what I was trying to get at, but she was just like waiting for me to just spit it out. And I was like, I think I would just really like to work at US Soccer if there's an availability. And like, I took 15 minutes to warm up to that. And her answer was so simple. She's like, absolutely. Let's think about ways that we can try and get you into the company. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I think the first thing that's so nerve-wracking about being an immigrant is you have to say that outright. You just say like, hey, also, here's this thing, I'm on a visa. And that's almost sometimes like, like the black plague of conversation, kind of, it can kill something. So, I said, by the way, I'm on a visa, and I will say this, but is mainly for Canadians because it is a caveat that works a lot in our favor because of the reciprocity agreements. I was like, but I'm Canadian, so the visa process would be easier. Also, I'm on a TNV. I've already played up all the questions and worries she may have. I was like, but this, just in case, don't be scared of me. I swear I'm ready.
What day was this? What day was this with the timer going off? Is this
the timer? This is, so I graduate December 18th. I have 60 days from December 18th. This conversation is happening now, I would say November 15th. And I'm getting my face completely reconstructed on December 16th because I broke my nose in so many places. So this is all happening. I'm like, she was like, okay, well, let's present your work. And I was like, okay, cool. I would love to present my work. But also I have this major surgery. So it has to be before this date. And so Kay was super great. And she was like, everyone come to this meeting. It's this day. We can't move it. So that was the timeline. I had to present my master's final to my actual class, then present it to US Soccer. Then I went into surgery the next day. And keep in mind, I had no idea where I landed in the work process at this point. All I could say as of November 15th was Kay knew I wanted to be at the company. Kay did not know, or there was nothing in place. So she basically advised me the following week being like, there are these openings, just try out for them, just apply. One of them was an analytics position. That was fine. I used to do, major digital analytics for the government. So I was like, this is fine. Foreign service, did that, low stress. And then another one was for marketing. And I was like, okay, I'll do that too. Applied to both of them, wrote amazing things, just trying to really put it in there. It was like, do you have a reference? I was like, Kay Bradley, this is fine. So I threw her name in there. I was like, this is fine. We're so nervous. I was like, somebody please pay attention to me. And then there was that box, that very ominous box for most immigrants that you have to write. Do you need sponsorship? And so it's like, do you need sponsorship? Yes or no? And will you need it in future? Thankfully, I got to write no for the first one because I had the government one, but I had to write yes for the subsequent one. So that was like that, oh my God moment.
Yeah.
And so now begins the waiting game. So I applied. I have my surgery December 16th. I get an email. I've applied now. It's, let's say, November 20th. Everything's happening. I have my presentations. They loved it, which was great. December 16th happens. I'm knocked out. Your girl is bandaged up, looking like I just came back from a really cheap surgery in Turkey. I definitely didn't, but it basically, as a Middle Eastern woman, everyone just thought it was cosmetic. They were like, she just didn't like her nose. And I was like, I just also broke it in so many places. But I'm now waiting, healing again, round 2 of me healing, and looking at my email. I have an email being like, we'd like to interview you. I'm like, oh God, I look crazy. I have huge bruises under my eyes. My nose is still in a cast. And I email him back saying, I'd love to. Please know I look crazy right now. And he's like, that's fine. I was like, I think I write this unnecessarily long email, just clarifying. I'm like, people at your company have seen me before. I've worked with Kay, but I have this thing. Please know that I look like a psychopath for no reason other than this, that, and the other. And he just writes back that's fine, chill, which to an overthinker was like a sword to my gut. I was like, oh my God, I wrote it for what? We have this interview, and actually midway through my interview, I guess who I was interviewing with was like, oh, there's also another opening. I think you're getting poached. And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, we're interviewing right now. I think you're getting poached for something else in this interview. I just got a message. And I was like, what's happening? So there had been an opening on the special projects team, and it fit more in line with being a marketing master's graduate, everything that I had done with event planning in my past, most of the things. And so I guess long story short, I played it off like I was interested in both jobs. I definitely had my own preference, but I was like, you have to play the field. It's like dating. Being on a work visa, you play the field. You act like you are so invested in everything anyone gives you. And I was just waiting to see if they wanted to interview me as well. And went through that process. And I found out, I want to say, when did I get hired? January 31st was my first day. Christmas happened. I still didn't hear back. And so I want to say, while the ticker was going down, I had maybe 30 days to spare. And that's when I found out, maybe less than 30.
I was gonna say less than 30 because didn't it start November 15th?
December 18th was my cutoff. Yeah. So actually less than 30 days.
Oof. December 18th was your
graduation. So that's when the ticker starts.
That's when it started. Got it. Okay. Oof. That is nerve-wracking.
Hey, Jahaan here. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I'm sure you are thinking about your own career right now and how you can pull out in front of the pack to take your career to the next level. For 18 years supporting women in sports, has been my favorite part of my career, and I would love to support you. Whether it's joining my free Game of Her Own community or one of my one-on-one coaching programs, I am here for you. Send me a message at jblake@jahaanblake.com or DM me on Instagram at jahaanblake, and let's schedule a time to have a free session. I cannot wait to hear from you. All right, let's get back to why you're here.
You entertained everything because that's what you do.
You have
But
to.
I think that's what you do regardless especially when you're coming out of a master's program or any school, right? Any education, and you graduate and you all right, it's time to get some money, consistent money coming in. So you got the offer.
I cried. The photos are hilarious. My friend took pictures, which I don't know if you like show the video of this, but my friend took photos of me and I look ridiculous.
There's a video of you, like kind of like the acceptance, like when people get accepted to college, they record it.
Yeah.
Is that what you did?
My friend just saw me essentially in my apartment. I got the call from Nicole being like, would you like this job? And I'm like unsure what to do with my hands, my face. I like full Ricky Bobbied in my apartment, just like, this is what I looked like. Like I look crazy.
You guys can't see this photo. It is fantastic. And if she will let me show you guys, I will link to it in the show notes. I'm
immediately crouching. For what reason? I was losing
That's an interesting position. Okay. That is incredible. So your friend who gave you the great advice, like you went for what you wanted, you were nervous the entire time, but it sounds like to me the entire time you were your authentic self. You talk a lot, and I don't mean that in a rude way. Right? Like you talk a lot, you have a lot of emotion, you are very, very, very outgoing and energetic. And it sounds like you put that into everything you were doing during the interview process. So you were nervous. You just were like, I look crazy right now. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it sounds like to me, you didn't put it through like a filter. It wasn't going through a Baba filter. That's for sure.
There was no Baba filter. And I don't think you can have one. For me, work culture is huge. And the relationships you build, I think a lot of people are like, those are the people you spend the most amount of time with. And so if you don't jive with them, like those are your coworkers. And so I think a lot of the time, I'm not saying like I'm, weekend Sabrina on a Zoom call, but I'm pretty much me at all times. So it's like a little bit of a lot. And I think also the added anxiety of looking like Shrek and or Sloth, depending on what you guys want to go for. It was just like, oh my God, I have to overcompensate. I was like, so nervous. But yeah, no, I think the best way to know how you'll work with someone is to just be yourself, because if you put on that filter the whole time, either one, in my opinion, your employer is going to be like, who is this person when you're actually in the company? And I think the other time is like you as a worker, like you want to work with people that work alongside your personality well and complement your personality. And I say that, as someone who's had those positions where I've tried to mold myself to work better with a company, and it worked because I was fine at doing it, but I was ultimately super unhappy in like different consulting jobs. So it's really hard for me not to be me. Mainly because like my friends will just call me out on it super immediately. They'll be like, your phone voice was weird. And I was like, damn it.
Oh yeah, I know that. My sister used to call me out all the time. She's like, why do you sound so fake when you talk to them? I'm like, you don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is that? I'm like,
but you have a choice, right? To like, you can make that choice. It doesn't always work out the way it worked out for you. Didn't work out. It's not going to always work out the way it's working out for me. And like finally just getting sick of the fake voice and just starting my own business and just being me doesn't always work out that way, but you do have a choice, and it may be a difficult one, or it might be an uphill battle. But at the end of the day, at least what I'm hearing from you is it's better to make that choice because you're just going to be happier and feel like your whole self.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things is, and you can translate that to like relationships in your personal life, you can translate that to work, whatever it is. And it's really hard for me to grasp this. And I will say like, it's something that I work on a lot. It's like, some people are just not going to like you. And it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how hard you try or how nice you are or how hard you work. They're just not going to like you. And it sucks to say that has something to play into work and how people, the opportunities you get, but that is what it is. So why not find that out off rip as opposed to, learn it once you're kind of in too deep. I'm just like, well, if you like me now, you're going to like me 2 months from now. Those people that like, they date someone and then it's like, after we put the title boyfriend girlfriend on it, he like became this weirdo. And I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna be me. You just be yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but
it's their representative that you meet.
that's
And I'm stealing that from a really good friend of mine, but like it's their representative. And then when you finally get to know them, you're like, why didn't you just be real to begin with? One, it would have saved us a lot of time and I probably wouldn't have like continued to hang out with you. Or I actually like this person better than your representative, right? Like it could go either way, but why are you wasting everyone's time?
And like, it's probably exhausting for you too. And so I think that's where I'm like, it's something that one of my brothers is like super logical to a fault. I'm highly emotional. And he just like says it super blunt. He's like, some people just don't like you. And I'm like, Amir, but why? And he's like, doesn't matter. Yeah. And I'm like, but why? And he's like, doesn't matter. Some people just don't like you. And you kind of have to like check your own ego and just be like, okay, well, if they don't like me, then that's fine. You find a company that does, because there is a fit for everybody. And so that's why I don't try and beat around the bush, because it's really hard for me to suppress who I am. As you know, you've met me in like both a professional and a personal setting. It's pretty, I would say, standard. I would say like my language is a little less colorful, but beyond that.
Yes, but you were at a level 10 all of the time. Like, you're at a level 10, and an introvert, me, I'm not at a level 10 all the time. So I'm like, how the hell does she do this? Like, nope, not there yet. I need a minute. I need like 5 more coffees and like 5 hours of alone time. But you just seem to thrive off the energy of others. And it's pretty impressive. That's why I was like, oh, you need to get on this podcast, because while your title doesn't scream a long like history of professional experience, you have it. And so that's why I was like, you have to come on, and I got to hear. I know there's more. I've heard some of your story. I want to hear more, because I think other people will, regardless of their level, will learn from you.
Oh, well, I hope whoever's listening does, sort of. But if not, I mean, at least hopefully you laughed at one point. I don't know. We'll do that to those kinds of.
Own it. Stop that. You just own who you are and your bad assery. I just made up a word. I might have stolen it from somebody. Tell us one more thing. I know D&I is important to you. And this is going to be something that I think other people are like, how do you make sure that it's important to the company that you're interviewing with and eventually accepting a job with? Like, how do you make sure it's not lip service? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. So I have a very interesting history with that. Obviously, you guys have heard my background in terms of my parents. I am a visible minority in that sense. I am biracial. And so even though my mom is white, blonde, and blue-eyed, I'm pretty notably Arab. And I think now I just don't beat around the bush about it. I did have a company I worked for a brief stint that were very openly intolerant towards me. I was told to go back to my country. I was kind of pushed out in a way. Yeah, your face.
What? No one can see my face. What?
Yeah, absolutely. By the HR. He worked in HR. He was the HR manager.
He told you to go back to your country?
He said if I wanted to see people that looked like me, then maybe I should just go back to my little country, wherever that was. Maybe it's Iran. And I was like, it's Iraq anyways. And I'm not an Iraqi citizen. I'm Canadian and Irish citizen. But obviously none of that happened. I didn't have a cool comeback. I thought about it in the shower like maybe 2 weeks later, but
isn't that always the case? You're
yeah,
like,
it's always
I had the best comeback.
Should have said it. And I didn't. And on it, and truthfully, I cried. I left, I ran into the bathroom and I cried. And my friend who was working there, I ran into the girls' bathroom and he got a bag of chips from the vending machine and went to the girls' bathroom and was like, do you want some chips? And like handed, because I feel like he was like, do you want some chips? Gave me some chips and was like, let's just leave because they're not paying you to deal with that. And I don't want to work here today. And I said, okay. So we left. But it sucked.
What was the context, if you can share? Like, did you say that prompted that?
It was a whole
wrong thing to say. Like whatever he said was wrong, but I'm wondering what started the conversation.
So there's a few things that had happened, but in this instance, this company had like 2 instances, but in this time, essentially what had happened was someone was talking about the show Modern Family, which if you guys are familiar, and I made the argument just on the side. I was like, I actually don't think that Modern Family is that modern. And they're like, why not? And I was like, well, you have like stereotypes as their diversity, like the token, like Asian adopted child for a white gay couple that don't really show affection on the show. And, you know, Hispanic representation is a trophy wife. So I was like, I actually don't think it's that modern. it's fine. It's just stereotypes. And then it led on to, well, if you want to see people that look like you, why don't you just go back to your little country, wherever that is?
Wow.
And I was just like, what's up now? So it was rough. I definitely cried. And there was another instance of it later where I don't eat pork. And I had some coworkers that were from India and they also didn't eat meat. And there was a pizza day at the same company. And this thing had already happened. And he had ordered 10 meat lovers pizza and 1 vegetarian pizza. And
oh my God.
Yeah, it was so aggressive. Like also like, ew, like so many of just one type. And so
what you just said there is so key, like to so many of the problems in the world, like so many of the same kind.
Exactly.
Same thing. Like wow. That's a huge problem when it comes to DNI, but sorry, keep going.
Pizza analogy is truly breaking boundaries. So I was out here just being like, I was trying to save pieces because they had meetings and there were people that could eat meat that were taking from the vegetarian pile. And I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like there's some of us that actually can only have the vegetarian option. Do you mind? And then like the look of just like, what the fuck? Like, why can't we have this? Sorry for swearing, but why can't we have that? And I was like, well, because there are some people who literally only have this as an option. And I was given back, yeah, well, this is free for you. So you should just be grateful that you're getting anything. And I remember it was like round 2 of like, am I going to cry? And so I was just like, I didn't that time because I think I was just still so in shock because this one had happened in a more public environment. Before it was like a more intimate, there was maybe 4 of us that were present. This was like the whole company was there eating pizza. And I tried to tell my school, and the unfortunate truth of the matter, and this is like, I'm not saying I didn't love my education. And I think it's important for people to know is sometimes people aren't going to have your back. I went to my school and I kind of talked about it and they had said, well, you could just quit, but it'll show up on your record that you didn't complete it was a co-op opportunity. It was like an internship. And it was like, it'll show up on your record that you didn't finish and you're dropped out of the program. And so I had to stick around with this company. And so that, I think in that sense, I silently stewed for the remaining 2 months. And I remembered that. I was like, some people aren't going to have your back. Some people will. For example, my friend Arthur, who came and brought me a bag of chips and was like, this is BS. And some people won't. And sometimes these major institutions like my university that are supposed to have your back and supposed to be there for you don't know how to act because they haven't been faced with these things and they don't want the lawsuit. So they just don't face it. And so you have to have your own back. And so now when I go into interviews, because I was so upset, I was so offended, I was embarrassed, I think. And Jahaan, I don't know if you've ever felt this as well. So being, a minority and being a Black woman in America, you have these moments, people are like, why didn't you say something? It's like, you're so shocked and embarrassed. It's like, what do you say? And I think people are like, well, why didn't you say this? And I'm like, you don't get it. Like when you're in the moment, like sometimes I laugh because I'm so shocked. I'm like, like, I don't know what to do.
Yes, 100%. What is incredible about you is that you are articulating that now, right? And I don't think you're junior in your career, but like, do you know what I mean? Like you're much younger than me. And I would say that now for me, like, so let me tell the story. And some listeners have heard this, but I was in a meeting and it was about Black History Month. And I'm so excited to be at the table, right? Yeah. And like contribute. And I don't know how I'm going to contribute. And I'm super nervous, right? Because I'm an introvert. And I'm like, I got to say something. Like, what do I say? What's my contribution going to be? And how am I going to help? And this executive was like, oh, this is what we can do. People can dress up as characters, or we can have people who are characters and tell the history. And she's like, Jahaan, like you can dress up like Harriet Tubman. And I was like,
oh my God.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what you see my contribution being, right? And so and that's what I'm thinking in my head. Actually, no, that's not what I was thinking in my head at the moment. I was thinking, I'm so embarrassed. I'm hot. Like I want to run out of the room. I don't know what to say in the moment. And for years, I blamed myself for not saying something. And it wasn't until actually like years and years. And then it wasn't until recently, till a college student said to me, that is not your job. Like you can't take that on. She wasn't supposed to, I'm going to mess up what she said, but it was something along the lines of, you shouldn't have to worry about that and how to respond and going to HR to complain. Because people were like, you should go say something. And I was like, I don't want to, like, I don't know what to say. I just want to put my head down and do work and like get ahead. And you're afraid of retaliation. So like, I just didn't say anything. And then I took that on and like, she said it to me and I had to go off. I was on a panel. And so when they asked someone else a question, I had to go off camera because I started tearing up. I was like, you just took me back like 18, like 17 years and just like made me realize like, oh Yeah, I was carrying that and I shouldn't have been. It's crazy. It's crazy what those little moments can do to you. And then when you don't feel supported, what that does to you. And then when like you're fighting this battle that you don't feel like you have to fight. And I'm more now thinking about you, like going to your college and then them not having the right systems in place to support you in a situation like that.
It was,
come on.
it was one of those things where they were like, yeah, well, they were like, that's awful. And I was like, oh, for sure. And I thought it was like upward swing. And they're like, yeah, you could just leave the program. And I was like, no, but doing co-op at the time is how you get a job. That's how I got my job in the foreign service. It was the next job I got after. But I was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, you only have like, they're like, it's only like a month and a half left. And I just remember like sitting and the HR guy just like having the smirk on his face. Like, and I was like, there's nothing I can do. And he kind of know, he knew. Who do you complain to if HR is the person that does it? It's that point of embarrassment, like you said. And to whoever said that to you, it's true. It's not our job, but also I think you want something to happen, but you also don't want it. You're like, you would just want it to go away. People are like, why? You should have to report it. And I'm like, it's just sometimes you do, sometimes you don't want to. And it's absolutely like, are you ready to take on the emotional baggage that comes along with just resurfacing all of that? And so to kind of like super long, I guess, tangent to get back to what it was is now when I go into interviews, I am super upfront about it. And I tell them exactly what my experience was. And if it makes them feel uncomfortable, I really don't care because I'm not going to go through that again. Like, I think that it kind of goes back to the, like, I'm really myself in interviews. I don't really like, there's kind of like Sabrina as a friend, Sabrina as a colleague, and it's like the same level of energy and stuff. Like, obviously the advice is different, but I don't really change my personality too much because in interviews, I need you to know who I am. The same way I don't compromise that because I need to find out now before I commit if that's going to be an issue, because I cannot and I refuse to go through that again. And it's an uncomfortable conversation. But I think one of the things is it's only uncomfortable for the people that don't want to make that change. Because for me, I just go into it. I try not to have an awkward mindset. I'm just like, they talk about what is something that you value, I think is a question that is interviewed a lot. And how I pivot that is something I value is diversity and inclusion and representation and having a good platform for voices. And then I don't even let them say we have that. And then I go, because this happened. And I'm not saying everyone always wants to delve into it and unpack their stories. But for me, it's just, I'm going to let you know. And it sucked. And that is one of, unfortunately, many experiences, but it's a professional experience that I can give to. And I became an advocate for it upon having it happen to me in what I thought was going to be a safe place to someone that's supposed to be a trusted, like it's your HR person, right? That's a trusted individual. And so, yeah, I just don't really, I throw all my cards on the table in interviews, which like some people are like, you probably shouldn't do that. I'm like, it's worked for me so far. But I also know that there are definitely different, I'm sure you've had other interviewees who are like, keep your hands close, whatever. Absolutely. I think that there's multiple ways to approach a situation. Just for me though, I don't want to have to deal with that again. And so if I see it to any of my coworkers or anything, I always want to make sure I'm a safe space and I'm someone that can, be an ear, because sometimes it's not about solutions. It's just about being someone to bitch to. And I always offer that. I'm like, hey, like, I think one of the things you asked in like the little form that we fill out sometimes is like, what's the strength of yours? And I think it's relationship building, because for me, I'm like, I will always, and it goes back to what my mom said, building connection. I will always be an ear to bitch to, because sometimes you just need to bitch and then it's done. Sometimes you want solutions, sure, but you want a safe person to speak to. I want to be your Volt in what can sometimes feel like a volatile situation.
Man, that was so good. I almost didn't ask that question about D&I because we were running out of time, but it is, I'm glad that I did, but I'm so glad that you shared. Like, that is, I feel like it was a life-changing moment when that person said it, what he said, and then the pizzas, and then you were like, I'm gonna, and then college, right? Those 3 pivotal points. And then you were like, I'm not going to another place that's like this. And that's hard, right? Because 1, you need a visa. The clock is ticking. 2, you look like Shrek and you're trying to interview. There's a lot of factors that could stop you from being real and saying what's important to you. And you did it. And like, you had the courage to do it. So, I feel like there's people who are listening to this episode who are clapping and cheering you on and so inspired by what you said. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. I think it's just one of those things that, unfortunately, if you are any form of minority, it's a lived experience in professional or personal, and you never know how to navigate it. And I will also say it's kind of an unfortunate truth, and I think it's important to put out there. You can throw all your cards on the table and you can still get blindsided. I think, it's important to talk about the workplace, and it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. So, people will always also tell you, I think, of course we have this, and you make it knowledgeable and you make it known, and you kind of judge their discomfort and their ability to have diversity in their workplace. But I think as a minority individual, you kind of always have that at the ready. You're like, nah, it could not turn out. You hope not, but it's having a support group and an arsenal of just confidence in a way. But that's not to say I don't still get embarrassed. I've definitely had other situations where same thing as you, you're just like, and it hits you sometimes after it happens to you and you have no reaction. And later you just cry, like maybe it's like a day later and you're just like, this sucked. So you're like, I don't even know what to say. Like I said, the shower thoughts, you're like, this was my comeback. It's like 8 years too late. It's knowing and having a safe space to talk about it with people that understand outside of your workplace. And then I think because of that, I try to be that safe space in a workplace and just being like, it's fine. I'm here to listen if I can. So I guess it's my personal kind of like hill that I want to die on, but I know it's not everyone's, but that I guess was the passion piece for me.
There is no natural transition to this, but are you ready for rapid fire questions?
I'm so ready. I don't know if I can see my hands up. I'm super ready.
No, they cannot see you, but she has her. No, they cannot see you.
I put on makeup. I put on makeup for a podcast. Let's talk about how embarrassing that is. No one can see me.
You know what? You felt good.
It was for you. It was for you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. All right. You ready? 12 questions, whatever comes to your mind first. What is your favorite sports moment?
Oh, this is so bad though, and it shouldn't inspire that. But I think the first hockey fight I ever saw was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
Same.
I'm so sorry. It's like we're not supposed to support violence, but when I saw those gloves come off, I was like, fighting on skates is a skill.
Same. I literally went to my first hockey game in college because I didn't grow up with hockey, and they dragged me. I did not want to go. And I was like, this is awesome. I mean, I like the aggression. It was fun to watch.
It's cool. I'm not going to lie. Like as someone's like boxing, obviously cool, fun, flirty, but boxing on skates, skill.
All right. What is something people always get wrong about you?
I'm actually a lot more introverted than I think people think. I guess I'm an ambivert. I really like my alone time, but I think people don't get it.
No, I would not have thought that at all.
Yeah.
What's one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Sushi.
Are you a morning or night person?
Oh, night into morning. I can run on little sleep if I'm excited on both ends of the day. Does that make sense? That sounds weird, but if there's like a fun night activity, but I'm doing something fun in the morning, like I could do both. It's fine.
Yeah, that is not me. That might be an age. That might be an age thing though. Favorite holiday?
Oh, you know what? I'm being a bit vain. I love my birthday. People just tell me that they love me. It's wonderful. Like I think it's a great excuse to let people know that you care about them. People are going to say Christmas. Actually, false. Okay. Birthday, Halloween. Halloween is top. Halloween. I love Halloween. Movies, candy, costumes. Friggin' 15 out of 10. But I also love my birthday for the people that tell me they love me. It's wonderful.
Also, did anyone just hear her Irish, British sort of accent just come out? Because I was teasing her a lot about that at the freaking She Believes Summit. What job would you absolutely be horrible at doing?
Oh, mathematician, like accounting.
This is why we get along so well. Same. What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
That's a good one. Hyaluronic acid.
What? What is that?
It's for your face. It I assumed it was a beauty product. Maybe that's like any product. I don't know. Beauty product. I was going to say
anything. Someone said tacos the other day.
Oh, well, I didn't know it was a food thing. They're going to then I'll stockpile. I really like Trix. No, French toast crunch. I don't know. I'm confused. Everything. Can you tell I'm a maximalist? Those people are like, I love my minimalist home. I'm like, who's that? I don't know what that is. Not me. Not that girl.
Yeah, I wish I could be that. I can't be that either. Okay, what is your favorite app?
TikTok, unfortunately. I'm super basic. TikTok. Obsessed.
Oh, I won't download it. Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram? Or LinkedIn. I'm supposed to add that. I forget.
I'm not going to lie. Okay, so I don't really use my Instagram. I deleted the app. I still have it on web to message my nail lady, but I love LinkedIn purely, and then I'm not, this is obviously like supposed to be a job thing, but LinkedIn drama is drama like no other drama. When the Will and Jada Oscar thing went down, reading people's comments, it's beautiful. I love LinkedIn drama. So LinkedIn for the drama, but Twitter for like fun, but LinkedIn drama.
Instagram has that drama too.
I can't LinkedIn drama because those people are supposed to be professional and they're putting their career on the line.
I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah,
I didn't think
it's
about it
way
like that.
more dramatic. People on like they're popping off, but you can see that they're like a CEO of something. And it's so like what people think are jobs is so funny. They'll be like, I'm a CEO, but it's like you're a CEO of two people. And it's like, how, like, what do you, and they're like, of like a moving company they started with her dad. I'm like, I don't know if CEO is the word that I would use, but sure. Yeah, I love.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I didn't think about it that you can't be anonymous.
LinkedIn drama is fantastic.
Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
I want to say the default answer. I don't have one. It would just be like my entire family, like there's 5 of them as like one collective, like megamorphed transformer human. That's a horrible.
I think that was my answer in episode 100 when someone interviewed me. I honestly think that was my answer too.
Yeah, I can't pick. Sorry.
As a child, what did you wish to become when you grew up?
My brother. Weird thing, but I wrote an entire story. My oldest brother is 10 years older than me. And it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, who's your hero? And my brother played football for McGill University at the time. And I was like, I want to be Omar. Shout out Omar. But I like drew a picture of me and like a football thing because I thought he was a professional football player. He wasn't. So when I was growing up, it was that. I wanted to do that or be a singer for the Cheetah Girls.
What are Cheetah Girls?
The Cheetah Girls? Okay, anyways, that's aside. That's over. That's our post-op. The Cheetah Girls, Cheetah Sisters. They are a Disney original group. Raven Simone, Adrienne Bailon. There's a girl named Sabrina on there, so I knew I had my cut.
All right. For those of you who are like me and don't know, I will link to that in the show notes. For those of you who know and are yelling at me right now through the podcast app, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what it is. It's fine. It's the Cheetah Girls. It's an age difference. Okay. All right. Last one. Finish this sentence. The future of women working in sports is
strong. I don't even know if that's grammatically correct, but strong. I was going to say, I went strong and then fuck yeah in my head. So that's a double thing.
I like it. Perfect. Yeah. Sabrina, this has been amazing. If someone wants to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Sabrina Alsaffar. Like I said, I love LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn drama is hilarious. So if you have any, and that's your home opener is like linking me to like your favorite bit of LinkedIn drama, I will actually probably like, I'll Uber Eats you something. That'll be my promise.
You better take that back.
I don't have the funds for it right now, but like, what'd you say? I like, yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn. I would love to say Instagram, but I don't use it. Like I said, LinkedIn, I guess would be the main way to get in touch with me.
LinkedIn. And I love the call to action, like call out some drama or call out Please. That I like drama or something that shows that you listen to the episode until the end.
I
like it. So you can prioritize those people. I'm just saying if they reach out.
I'll let you know.
This was a fantastic conversation. I laughed a lot. It was therapeutic in a way. This was so much fun. So thank you for spending time with me.
Thank you for dealing with my initial internet connection issue and just inviting me. I feel like this is so exciting. What an amazing thing you're doing. What a great platform. It feels, I don't know, I feel happy. I'm going into it with more energy than I started, which to you might be hard to believe, but you're like, how do you go higher than 100? And I don't know. It's
Sabrina will show us. Thank you.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.